All right. Well, here we are. Break 4:11. Really didn't think this one was going to happen today when we checked the tracking this morning. So, yes. All right. Our team list for this one, and this is another League Heroes case break. Broncos, Jacob Tupou. Raiders, Stephen Murray. Bulldogs, Greg King. Sharks, Scott Sager. Dolphins, Nicholas Verwey. Titans, Karen Adnum. Manly, Lauren Plath. Storm, Tom Mill. Knights, Rod Staples. Cowboys, Terry Cadman. Eels, Kevin Follas. Panthers, Dean Mich. Rabbitohs, Terry Cadman. Dragons, Keith Hunter. Roosters, Johnny D. Warriors, Kevin Follas. And Tigers, Nick Duckitt. Just a reminder to who we got: Rod Staples, Greg King, and Jacob Tupou, and Karen Adnum. Karen's in the group, but we all trade. Well, I don't, but you're welcome to trade teams in the Facebook group. We put the team list in there and go from there. All right, let's get this case open. Let's bring the chat up and the team list. There's our boxes. YouTube still hasn't caught up. We're still up. Yeah. We weren't sure if we're going to get these, when we're going to get these, so we just listed a new break, guys. A full hobby case and a case of starters. So that is 40 starter packs. Now, if you're in that break or watching that video, I would hold off jumping in at first. Give me a bit of time to open all the actual starter packs up, and we'll get all the packets out, and then we'll sit there and cut the tops off the single cards. Alright, that sounded bad. Tops off the single cards. Off the bonus pack, it's opening that's easy to damage the card. So for the first time, you'll see me actually use scissors to open packs on camera. Game breakers, Ribbon Garrick for Manly to kick us off today. Luminous Adam Fanua Blake for the Sharks. Gladiators, William Kennedy for the Sharks, number 573. Luminous Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. League Heats Jacob Carraz for Bulldogs. Luminous Tyson Frizzell for the Knights. Bang, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Luminous Jalen DeGroot for Titans. Game Breakers Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. And a reminder, guys, Mum is in the background doing plenty of scanning. We will have singles up. Just takes time. Cohen Hess in the die cut for Cowboys. Cassie Tohi Hiku for the Eels in the Luminous. League Heads Jacob Little for the Dragons. Marky Mark Luminous for the Roosters. Game Breakers Kurt Catewell for the Warriors. Tommy Gilbert Luminous for the Dolphins. League Heads Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. The Luminous Wade Egan for the Warriors. League Heads Connolly Lumi Lulu for the Dolphins. Luminous Trent Moreau for Storm. Die cut Jojo Fifita for the Titans. Jamal Fogarty Luminous for Manly. Game Breakers Dream Bullard for the Tigers. Luminous AJ Brimson for the Titans. Triumph Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Luminous Marasa Nakor for the Warriors. League Heads Liam Martin for the Panthers. Luminous Moses Leota. Yeah, the Mercury cards look good. Some more than others, though. I'm not going to lie. Some are just really nice. Bang Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Luminous Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. League heads, Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. Luminous Mackenzie Wheel for the Cowboys. Game breakers, Nathan Cleary. I don't mind these, yeah. Luminous Latu Finu for the Tigers. I think I prefer the acetate over the league heads, the game breakers over the league heads. Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. Luminous Ezra Mam for Broncos. Red Triumph for the Titans. Luminous Jai Arrow for the Rabbitohs. Game breakers, Jesse Colquhoun for the Sharks. Luminous Keanu Kinney for the Titans. League heads, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Oh yeah, the game breakers are acetate. Kyle Flanagan, Luminous for the Dragons. I used to think that about the Star Tunes when they stopped putting them on acetate as well. Die cut, Matthew Lodge for Manly. Luminous Angelina for the Bulldogs. Bang, Marky Mark for the Roosters. Luminous Zach Lomax for Eels. League heads, Molly Olika Artu for Manly. Luminous Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Thoughts of the design if the die cut? I like the die cuts if that's what you're asking, but I prefer the gold ones in the hobby. They look pretty cool with the shimmer. But the colour ones, because obviously I got to see, we opened. Yes, sorry mate, I've been meaning to reply to you. Unfortunately, I can't tag Greg. Game breakers, Kira Dib for the Cowboys. Pretty sure he's on Facebook, but I can't remember his Facebook name. Jamie Humphries, Luminous for the Rabbitohs. He's also in this break, Lee. He's one of those Mercuries that I just think the colours pop. Bo Fermor for the Titans. Number 59. Blue's definitely one of my favourite colours, so that one stands out for me. Happy Nichols, Luminous for the Warriors. Game breakers, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Luminous Carl Lawton for the Cowboys. League heads Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Finor Pole, Luminous for the Tigers. Bang, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Luminous Cameron McInnes for Sharks. Daly M Predictor. Teddy for the Roosters, number 91. Jaden Sewer, Luminous for the Dragons. League heads Cohen Hess for the Dolphins. Luminous Billy Walters for Broncos. And die cut William Kennedy for the Sharks. Choose Luminous Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. Got 4 packets left for this one. Game Breakers Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Luminous Greg Marshall for Knights. Bang, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Kuli Kefu for the Dolphins. League heads Brian Kelly for the Titans. Luminous Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. And lucky last one for the box. League heads Jerome Hughes for Storm. Tommy Dearden, Luminous for the Cowboys. Box number 2. Bang, Dean Mariner for the Broncos. Luminous Nico Hines for the Sharks. We've got Mercury, Definitely one of my favourites. A Junior Paulo for the Eels, number 303. Luminous Isaac Tago for Panthers. Game Breakers, Bo Fermor for the Titans. Leo Bawate, Luminous for Manly. Die cut Mawaki Fotowaka for the Titans. Luminous Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. League Heads Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Luminous Luca Moretti for Eels. Game Breakers, Joash Papali'i for the Eels. Luminous James Fisher-Harris for the Warriors. G'day, Uncle Al. League Heads, Robert Toya for the Roosters. Luminous Lycan King Togia for the Dragons. Gladiators, Kalen Ponga for the Knights, 147. Yasmin Clipsdale, Luminous for the Knights. League Heads, Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. Val Holmes, Luminous for the Dragons. Game Breakers, Isaiah Katoa for the Dolphins. Luminous Big Tino for the Titans. Triumph Team for the Sharks. Luminous Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. League Heads, Murray Talagi for the Cowboys. Luminous Dean Mariner for the Broncos. Game Breakers, Reese Walsh for the Broncos. Kalen Ponga, Luminous for the Knights. Die cut, Tamir Martin for the Warriors. Isabel Kelly, Luminous for the Roosters. League Heads, Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Nelson Asafa Solomona for Storm. Game breakers, Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Luminous, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Bang, Aleka Halasima for the Warriors. Luminous, Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Die cut, Felice Kafusi for Dolphins. Luminous, Jason Saab for Manly. Bang, Asai Iongi for the Eels. Luminous, Orion Pappenhausen for Storm. I thought a few of them looked like just a normal head with a shrunken body, if I'm being honest. Game breakers, Happy Nichols for the Warriors. Gehamat Shabarsky, Luminous for Broncos. Die cut, Tom Starling for the Raiders. Luminous, Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs. League heads, Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Jeremiah Nanai, Luminous for the Cowboys. Game breakers, Jerome Luai for Tigers. Luminous, Keezy Apps for the Tigers. League heads, Dylan Walker for the Eels. Cody Walker, Luminous for the Rabbitohs. League heads, Reece Welsh for the Broncos. Alfiana Campi-Era, Luminous for the Titans. Bang. Jack Bostock for the Dolphins. And Addo Carr, Luminous for the Eels. Die cut, Adam Reynolds for Broncos. Jerome Loy, Luminous for the Tigers. League heads, Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Luminous Hudson Young for the Raiders. Triumph Red Blaze Talagi for Panthers. Luminous Leka Halasima for the Warriors. Game Breakers Tegan Berry for the Dragons. The Hammer for the Dolphins in the Luminous. League Heads Roger Tuivasa Sheck for the Warriors. Luminous Cohen Hess for the Cowboys. League Heads Tommy Turbo for Manly. Luminous Episode Carousel for Tigers. Game Breakers James Tedesco for the Roosters. Liam Martin Lunas for Panthers. Bang Luke Brooks for Manly. Luminous Kale Ero for the Sharks. League Heads Ray Stone for the Dolphins. Cody Nicarima Luminous for Dolphins. Bang Sebastian Chris for Raiders. And Luminous Brighton Nakora for the Sharks. Alright. League Heads Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Yasmin Clydesdale Luminous for the Knights. Diecast Oregon Kafusi for the Sharks. Luminous Jerome Luai for Tigers. G'day, Alex. Game breakers, Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Luminous Hui Farnworth for the Dolphins. Jacob Perez in the base. He went too far. Game breakers, Dane Gagai for the Knights. James Fisher-Harris, Luminous for the Warriors. League heads, Mawaki Fodawaka for the Titans. Luminous, Dylan Egan for the Dragons. Red Triumph, Molly Olakaatu for Manly. Keep thinking they're numbered. No, they're not. Jason Saab, Luminous for Manly. The parallels are. Bang, James Tedesco for the Roosters. Luminous, Abby Church for the Eels. Triumph in the team for Roosters. Luminous, Jamie Chapman for the Titans. League heads, Samola Fanu for the Tigers. Luca Moretti for the Eels. Game breakers, Chance Nico Klokstad for the Warriors. Luminous, Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. League heads, Ben Hunt for Broncos. Isaiah Yo, Luminous for Panthers. Gladiators, Keon Colomatini for the Rabbitohs, number 281. We're talking bang cards aren't numbered, if that's what we're talking about. Two news agencies here in going, one will not be getting NRL cards, the other one doesn't know if they will be getting them or not. That's unusual. We've heard of other news agents being contacted by 3 different distributors. Cohen Hess, Luminous for the Cowboys. Dean Mariner, die cut for the Broncos. Luminous, Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Die cut, Jack Hetherington for the Knights. Luminous, Val Holmes for the Dragons. Game breakers, Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Luminous Ben Hunt for Broncos. Bang Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Luminous Asai Yongi for the Eels. League Heads Jermaine Isako for Dolphins. Luminous Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. League Heads Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Luminous Isabel Kelly for the Roosters. Game Breakers Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. Luminous Cody Nikarima for the Dolphins. Bang Isaac Tago for Panthers. Luminous Kale Hero for the Sharks. Die-cut Sean Kepi for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Lehe Hopawate for Manly. Die-cut Max King for the Bulldogs. Nelson Asafa Solomona, Luminous for Storm. League Heads Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Alex Johnston, Luminous for the Rabbitohs. Game Breakers Luke Brooks for Manly. Luminous Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. League Heads Nico Hines for the Sharks. Big Tino Luminous for Titans. League Heads Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. Luminous Dylan Brown for Knights. Bang Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Luminous Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers Tamale for the Raiders. Luminous Episode Coruscant for the Tigers. League Heads Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. A quick break at work. Any SIGs in this break? Not so far. Liam Martin, Luminous for Panthers. I think there's only a couple in the retail version. Predictor signatures, yeah. Wait, are the Dally M and rookie signatures? I think they are. Billy Smith, Mercury for the Roosters. 319. Scott Drinkwater in the Luminous for Cowboys. League heads, Ruben Garrick for Manly. Luminous, Hudson Young for Raiders. Game breakers, Julia Robinson for the Broncos. Luminous, Aleka Halasima for the Warriors. League heads, Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Luminous, Nico Hines for Sharks. Oh, get open. Bang, Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Luminous, a hammer for the Dolphins. Game breakers, Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. Hi Jared, I'm saying one. Morgan Smithies, Luminous for the Raiders. And to finish off box number 3, bang, Cody Nicarima for the Dolphins and Dean Mariner, Luminous for Broncos. Box number 4, bang, Tyron Wishart for Storm. Oh, excuse me, Lycan King Togia for the Dragons. League heads, Wade Egan for the Warriors. Luminous, Isaac Tago for Panthers. Die cut, Josh Papali'i for the Eels. Luminous, Alifiana Khan Piera for Titans. Game breakers, Abby Church for the Eels. Have just traded my Dragons for Rodney's Manly in tomorrow's break. Too easy. Addo Carr, Luminous for Eels. Just make sure you send me an inbox or the post, comment on the post, and I'll make sure it's fixed up. But unfortunately, Lee, I did miss that in the first time I read that. It won't be on tomorrow. We have no breaks on tomorrow or Sunday at this point. Triumph, Isaiah Iongi for the Eels. A luminous Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. League heads, Big Tino for Titans. Luminous Gabat Shabarsky for the Broncos. Definitely tongue twisted on that one. Game breakers, Big Tino for the Titans. Jacob Preston, Luminous for the Bulldogs. League heads for Storm. The Luminous Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. Bang, Murray Talagi for the Cowboys. Luminous Keezy Apps for the Tigers. League heads, Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Yeah, we will be getting Pick Your Teams up eventually. It's on the list, but unfortunately that list is long. Luminous Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. And without knowing when we're going to receive the standard League Heroes cases, it was a bit hard to actually make plans with anything. Gladiators, Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Number 254. Luminous Brighton Nakora for the Sharks. Game breakers, Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Luminous Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Triumph, Jerome Hughes for Storm. Robert Toya, Luminous for the Roosters. To be honest, the hardest part at the beginning is trying to get the orders out while trying to open, to be able to scan, to be able to list, to be able to pack more orders. League heads, Tom Dearden for the Cowboys. And at the moment, we're stuck on packing pre-sales and opening and scanning. We haven't even got to listing yet. So, Samaima Torfa, Luminous for Raiders. It's a very vicious cycle here on release period. Not enough hours in the day and not enough hands. Game breakers, Angus Crichton for the Roosters. And we have plenty of people offer to help, but it gets a bit full and you get on top of each other and trying to explain to new people how we do things, and it's just easier in the end. Mikey Photo Icon for the Titans. I think this is the first release that the younger brother hasn't been here helping. William Kennedy, bang for the Sharks. Luminous Adnum Dewey for the Tigers. Bang, Fanua Pole for the Tigers. Been a minute, how you been? Hey buddy. No, not really as yet. Ali Brigginshaw, Luminous for the Broncos. League heads, Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. Jermaine Isako, Luminous for the Dolphins. Mercury, Fanua Hole for the Tigers. Number 12. That's a nice low one in the scheme of things. Luminous Casey McLean for Panthers. Bang, Jalen de Groot for the Titans. Still a great job. I heard the shipping has been a bit off this release, which causes delay. How many deliveries was it, Dad? 6 over 3 couriers we've received over the last 3 days. And all the updates have been last minute. Oops. Tamir Martin, Luminous for Warriors. Game Breakers, Luciano Leilua. Jai Gray, Luminous for the Rabbitohs. Lecker, die cut for the Warriors. Reed Marnie, Luminous for the Cowboys. Game Breakers, Ali for the Warriors. Luminous Dominic Young for the Knights. Only up from here. That's it. Well, considering we weren't supposed to get hobby till April, and it was the first thing that we actually received. League heads, Mich Kenny for Panthers. Damien Cook, Luminous for Dragons. Dad even ordered 2 hobby boxes through SCC just in case we didn't get any hobby stock through the normal way so we could do something with it. And we still haven't received those. League heads, Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. So yes, I did say at the end of last year, we would be here doing the same as we do. Exactly how that looked, we wouldn't know, and we probably still won't know for another 12 months, but we're still here doing what we do. League heads, Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Luminous Chance Nicole Clockstad for the Warriors. Cards are nice though, got to give them that. Bang, Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Ethan Sanders for the Raiders. Game Breakers Vanilla Pole for the Tigers. Luminous William Kennedy for the Sharks. League Head Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Luminous Sotili Tupou for the Bulldogs. Die cut Isaiah Katoa for the Dolphins. Sean Russell, Luminous for the Eels. League head Adnum Dewey for the Tigers. Luminous Zali Hopkins for the Dragons. Die cut Tolotoko Ala for Manly. Luminous Molly Olika R2 for Manly. Game Breakers Anessa Biddle for the Sharks. Cadman, Luminous for the Bulldogs. Clive Churchill signature. Let's leave that one till the end, hey? Let's leave the predictors and the instant wins. We'll go through them at the end. Luminous Jermaine McEwen for the Knights. We got no randomizers in these, so league heads Payne Haas for Broncos. Luminous James Tedesco for the Roosters. Lucky last for the box. Game Breakers Zach Labour for the Cowboys. Luminous Jerome Hughes for Storm. Alright, another box down. We did pick up the predictor though. Alright, third of the way through. Let's get stuck into box number 5. One try to escape. Let's open it first. Bang! Apposite Coruscant for the Tigers. Luminous Carl Lawton for the Cowboys. League head Unfanua Blake for the Sharks. Jai Arrow, Luminous for the Rabbitohs. Bang, Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Luminous Keanu Kinney for Titans. Game Breakers, Taylor Preston for the Bulldogs. Kyle Flanagan, Luminous for the Dragons. League Heads, Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Luminous Angelina for the Bulldogs. Die cut Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. Luminous Zach Lomax for the Eels. League Heads, Lockie Galvin for the Bulldogs. Luminous Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Triumph Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Luminous Jamie Humphries for the Rabbitohs. League Heads, Ethan Bullymore for Manly. Luminous Billy Walters for the Broncos. Game Breakers, Zach Lomax for the Eels. Luminous Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. Bang, Adam Reynolds for Broncos. Luminous Greg Marsu for Knights. League Heads, Wade Egan for the Warriors. Kulikefu Finney for the Dolphins in the Luminous. Game Breakers, Tamika Upton for the Broncos. Luminous Emma Veron for the Sharks. Bang, Dylan Edwards for the Panthers. Samula Finu, Luminous for the Tigers. League Heads, Dream Buller for Tigers. Luminous Ray Stone for Dolphins. Oh, Daily M Predictor. Luminous Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Die cut Lycan King Togia for the Dragons. Luminous Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. think that lighting's much better. I actually think it's the pendant light that's behind me was giving me the grief. League head Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Luminous Nichols for the Warriors. For anyone getting annoyed by that noise in the background, I am sorry, but it does mean it's more orders going out, and that order could be yours. So please be patient with us. League heads, John Bateman for the Cowboys. Not in this break. We obviously hit one yesterday, and we have opened a few ourselves. Luminous Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Gladiators, Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys, number 441. Luminous Fanua Pole for the Tigers. Game Breakers, Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Luminous Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. Excuse me. Luke Metcalf in the Mercury for Warriors, number 91. Luminous Trent LaRoe for Storm. Bang Kale Iro for the Sharks. Luminous Jamal Fogarty for Manly. Bang Jai Gray with the Rabbitohs. Luminous Dylan Lucas for Knights. Game Breakers, Brian Top for Panthers. Luminous Lachlan Galvin for Bulldogs. Pretty cool, they made that a thing. Hopefully hit one in one of you guys breaks. Hopefully. Triumph Katoni Stags for the Broncos. Luminous Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. League heads, Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Hugo Savala, Luminous for the Roosters. Almost finished box number 5. Just guessing, I think there's about 8 packets left. So we're about 3/4 of the way through it, for being more accurate. Game Breakers, Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Luminous for the Storm. And die cut, Taylor May for the Tigers. Luminous Brendan Smith for the Rabbitohs. League heads, AJ Brimson for the Titans. Tamale Luminous for the Raiders. Game Breakers, Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Philip Sammy for the Titans. League heads, Payne Haas for the Broncos. Luminous AJ Brimson for Titans. Game Breakers, Lachlan Elias for the Dragons. Luminous Murata Nakor for the Warriors. League heads, Bradman Best for the Knights. Luminous Moses Leota for Panthers. 2 packets left for the box. Die cut, Greg Marshew for the Knights. Luminous Jermaine Hopgood for Eels. Game Breakers, Blake Brayley for Sharks. A Luminous Mackenzie Wheel for the Cowboys. And that's another box done and dusted. Bang, Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Luminous Max King for the Bulldogs. League heads, Dominic Young for the Knights. Lyshon Albert Jones for the Warriors in the Luminous. Game Breakers, Kuli Kefu for the Dolphins. Luminous Reece Walsh for the Broncos. Die cut, Eliza Katoa for Storm. Luminous Tolator Koala for Manly. League heads, Stefano Utokamanu for Storm. Luminous Dylan Edwards for Panthers. It reminds me of the Coneheads movies in that picture. Is there a full base set in a retail box? No, there is not. To be honest, we haven't actually tested it ourselves, but if you add the numbers up and what other people have already said, then no. Game breakers, Mahalia, Murphy for the Eels. Luminous, Payne Haas for the Broncos. And obviously, Hobby, definitely not. Die cut, Asaya Papalihi for the Panthers. Luminous, Bradman Best for the Knights. Bang Falago for the Storm. Luminous Junior Paulo for the Eels. League heads, Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Luminous Felice Kafusi for the Dolphins. Yeah, I've seen a couple of posts of people saying no, they didn't get a full set and they were chasing. I don't know, it seemed like there was quite a few cards still. It wasn't just a couple. Game breakers, Jerome Hughes for Storm. Which obviously, I'll take that shameless little plug. Obviously, you know where to look for them. Just give us a bit of time to get them up. Luminous, Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Yeah, most of you are probably aware we haven't even done the albums and base sets as yet. League heads, Sam Verrills for the Titans. Luminous, Lachlan Elias for the Dragons. At first, I thought you had to buy extra sleeves just to fit the base set in, but that's not the case. You can fit a full base set in the sleeves provided. Game breakers, Hamoli, Adam Fanua-Blake for the Sharks. Luminous, Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. That's good to know, Kevin. Thanks, mate. Triumph, Keon Colomateni for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Billy Smith for the Roosters. Oh, wrong one. Bang, Scott Drinkwater for Cowboys. Luminous, Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. League heads, Hammer for the Dolphins. I'll end up buying it very much the last few releases. Luminous, Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. Who got him into it though, Kevin? Are you the one to blame for starting his hobby? Not that that's a bad thing, but I do feel like if you start your nephew in the hobby that you're in, you have some sort of obligation. Game breakers to Nila Paseka for Manly. Luminous, Dream Buller for the Tigers. Our Golden Triumph. Why not leave this one till the end as well? Luminous Xavier Coates for Storm. League Heads Asaya Yo for Panthers. Luminous Herbie Farnworth for Dolphins. It's a good hobby to be into. You can't get hurt. There's no hassle. Triumph for the team. The Dragons. Luminous Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. League Heads Alex Twal for the Tigers. Luminous Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Game Breakers Alafiana Khan Piera for Titans. Luminous Jaden Campbell for Titans. League Heads Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Luminous Taylor Preston for the Bulldogs. League Heads Xavier Willison for the Broncos. Luminous Asaya Youngie for the Eels. Bang Hugo Savala for the Roosters. Luminous Ethan Bullymore for Manly. League Heads Hudson Young for the Raiders. Luminous Jesse Colquhoun for the Sharks. It was hard here. Well, that's good. Game Breakers Tyson Frizzell for the Knights. Luminous Kurt Capewell for the Warriors. Do you think, was there much AFL over there, Kevin? Duckitt Junior Paulo for the Eels. I don't see AFL being a big hit over there. Luminous Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. Game Breakers Liam Martin for Panthers. Luminous Abbey Church for the Eels. League Heads Jack Williams for the Eels. Luminous Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. Mercury Jermaine McEwen for the Knights, number 289. Once again, though, cricket's with TLA or TGO, whatever they end up being. So, if cricket is over there doing alright, you'd think the NRL would have been over there as well. The fact that NRL's now over there with AFL, like with Select, but they didn't already have those avenues through AFL, that seems... Jack White and Luminous for the Rabbitohs. I'm assuming the people over there are probably getting it through other distribution channels, such as somewhere like where the news agencies would get theirs from over here. Gladiators, Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons, number 128. But I honestly don't know either, Kevin. Yeah. A luminous Isaiah Yo for the Panthers. League heads, Connor Watson for the Roosters. Luminous Dylan Brown for the Knights. Game breakers, Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Luminous Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. 3 packets left for box number 6. Die cut, Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Luminous Jamie Chapman for the Titans. Bang Phoenix Crossland for Knights. Only one real spoiler. Yeah, right. Dylan Egan, Luminous for the Dragons. Let me be clear on that, Kevin. They did not know they were losing the license up until the very end. Yes, they did expect to be keeping it. And it was like a seesaw effect, if I'm being honest, from what we heard. 1 minute they believed they had it clear, no doubts. And the next minute they were like, I don't know what's going on. And then they'll back up. Yep, we've got it. They were confident, and in the end it landed with Select, as we know. Here we are. But yes, at no point last year did they, when they were doing all that, did they think they were actually losing it. So, bang, Jaden Campbell for Titans. Luminous Ben Hunt for the Broncos. Go for it, Big Ted. We have a few breaks up on the website. Got a few options with different box combos available. And we'll have singles up as well at some point. Singles take time. Unfortunately, we do like to when we list a category, we like to try and have it pretty full, not just bits and pieces. Bang Ali for the Warriors. Luminous Max Plath for the Dolphins. League Heads James Fisher-Harris for the Warriors. Luminous Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs. No, just coincidence. Bang Toltoku Ala for Manly. Luminous Brian Kelly for the Titans. Red Triumph for the team Penrith Panthers. Luminous Bailey Simpson for the Eels. League Heads Ruben Cotter for Cowboys. Luminous Jesse Southwell for the Knights. Bang Hugo Savala for the Roosters. Can we change our supplier over here? Luciano Leilua for the Dragons. Game Breakers Xavier Willison for the Broncos. I'm assuming you are talking to Kevin. Regan Campbell Gillard Luminous for the Titans. League Heads Kyle Flanagan for the Dragons. Luminous Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. Game Breakers Tui Kamakamika for the Storm. Luminous Blaze Talagi for Panthers. Colour die cut Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. Luminous Tom Starling for the Raiders. League Heads Anfanua Blake for the Sharks. Luminous Tamika Upton for the Broncos. Mercury Tortor Koala for Manly, number 50. Luminous Jesse Aramian for the Sharks. Tortor Koala, Game Breakers for Manly. Luminous Mitchell Barnett for Warriors. Yeah, I've seen Card Central used to advertise a bit, but I haven't seen much from them as you say, for this release at all. Game breakers, Rabbitohs for the Roosters. A luminous Matthew Tomoko for the Raiders. Gladiators, number 439. Moses Leota for Panthers. Luminous Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Not at the moment, sorry, Terry. League heads, Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. If we could have got one off this morning, then I would have tried. Ben Jaboyevich, Luminous for Manly. I've got that turned on, so league heads, Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. Okay. Luminous, Jessica Surgis for the Roosters. I didn't turn that off after yesterday because I knew we'd be getting hammered. I could, yeah. The box, a single box is 140. We're doing a full case of 12, so. And the hobby boxes are 250. Bang, Jermaine Isako for the Dolphins. Luminous, Mitchell Moses for the Eels. And a spot in this break is 120. We don't have any of these ones up. We've got a few different options to choose from. League heads, Ethan Bullymore for Manly. Luminous, Sarah Togatuki for Tigers. Die cut, Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. See that little bit sitting on my moat, just under my nose, floating around. Luminous, Connolly Alumilu for the Dolphins. Game breakers, Isaac Tago for Panthers. Luminous, Samuel Stone Street for the Sharks. Bang, Bailey Simonson for the Eels. Luminous, Tanila Paseka for Manly. Bang, Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Sanua Taruva for Tigers. League heads, Xavier Coates for Storm. Luminous, Sam Walker for the Roosters. Colour die cut, Big Tino for the Titans. They're equivalent to the golden ticket and their cards we're collecting. I'm so raw, don't punish me for not even knowing. There's no golden ticket as we knew it. Luminous John Bateman for the Cowboys. There's a thing called Golden Treasures, which actually has players on it, but they're also redeemable for, I believe it's team set. What's worded on the website and what's worded on the checklist is slightly different, and we haven't got one yet to read it. But I do believe it's basically redeemable for a team set. I don't know what's in the team set. I've heard the instant win cards. You got team sets in that last year in the AFL. Also that you got signed jerseys, sealed boxes. So yeah, it's completely different. League heads, Phoenix Crossland for Knights. Luminous Jamin Salmon for the Bulldogs. The only thing that's really sort of relatable, and it's what Jared Reese sort of put in our heads, that look at the boxes we're doing now and the hobby boxes is Series 1 and Series 2. Don't look at them as the same series, because even the base cards are different. From what we know in the past, the base cards in the hobby are more like a silver parallel to these. So, Game Breakers, Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Luminous Cameron Munster for the Storm. And as always, both checklists are available to download on our website. Game Breakers, Nita Maynard for the Dragons. Katoni Staggs, Luminous for the Broncos. Die cut, Ezra Mam for the Broncos. Luminous Zaya Papali'i for the Panthers. League heads, Regan Campbell Gillard for the Titans. Luminous Will Penasini for the Eels. League heads, Zach Lomax for the Eels. Luminous Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Red Triumph Dream Buller for Tigers. Luminous Alex Seafarth for the Tigers. Game Breakers, Matt Shabarsky for Broncos. Luminous Keon Comatengi for the Rabbitohs. 3 packets left for box number 7. League heads, Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Luminous Ali for the Warriors. Colour die cut, Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. Luminous Jonah Pezzett for the Storm. Game Breakers, Sire Youngie for the Eels. Luminous Jordan Ricky for the Broncos. And that's box number 7, done and dusted. Box number 8. Game Breakers, Saitili Tupou for the Bulldogs. Luminous Luke Lolili for the Tigers. Bang Lycan King Togia for the Dragons. Luminous Roger Tulvasa Sheck for the Warriors. Game Breakers, Jamie Chapman for the Titans. Luminous Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Die cut Brendan Pakura for the Broncos. Luminous Philip Sammy for the Titans. Die cut Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Luminous Dylan Lucas for Knights. Triumph in the team for Bulldogs. Luminous Lockie Galvin for the Bulldogs. League heads Ethan Strange for Raiders. Luminous Murray Talagi from Cowboys. Game Breakers, Mr. White for the Roosters. Luminous Brendan Smith for Rabbitohs. League heads Max King for Bulldogs. Luminous Tamale for the Raiders. Game Breakers, Harry Grant for Storm. Luminous Emma Veron for the Sharks. League heads, Junior Paulo for the Eels. Brian To'o, Luminous for Panthers. League heads, Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. Bang, Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. Luminous Dane Gagai for the Knights. Game Breakers Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Luminous Connor Watson for the Roosters. League Heads Luciano Leilua for the Dragons. Luminous Ray Stone for the Dolphins. League Heads Sam Walker for the Roosters. Luminous Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Red Triumph, Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Luminous Tommy Turbo for Manly. League Heads Moses Leota for Panthers. Luminous Xavier Willison for Broncos. Game Breakers Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Luminous Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Bang, Jack Bostock for Dolphins. Luminous Hugo Savala for Roosters. League Heads Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Luminous Falago for Storm. Mercury number 26, Lachlan Ilias for the Dragons. Luminous Dylan Walker for the Eels. Curious to know what people think low numbers are in them. I mean, surely anything under 10%. Liam Martin for the Panthers in the die cut. Luminous Zahara Tamara for the Raiders. Bang, Alefiana Khan Piera for the Titans. Luminous Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. League Heads Jerome Luai for Tigers. Luminous Blake Brayley for Sharks. Die cut Jack Howarth for Storm. Luminous Tui Kamika for Storm. Gladiators, Tommy Turbo for Manly, number 157. Luminous Samula Fainu for the Tigers. Game Breakers, Trent LaRoe for Storm. Luminous Connor Tracy for Bulldogs. Game Breakers, Luca Moretti for the Eels. Luminous Jake Jabojevic for Manly. Bang, Jason Saab for Manly. Luminous Sean Kepi for the Rabbitohs. League Heads, Ezra Mam for Broncos. Luminous Latrell Mitchell for Rabbitohs. League Heads, Harry Grant for Storm. Tegan Berry, Luminous for the Dragons. 4 packets left for the box. Well, this is fourth last packet. Die cut, Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Luminous white for the Roosters. League Heads, Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Luminous Jack Bostock for Dolphins. Bang, Dean Mariner for Manly, Broncos. Luminous Lindsay Smith for Panthers. Alright, lucky last for the box. Game Breakers, Alex Twal for Tigers. Luminous Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. I don't know if that's a pattern, if that's the way they're putting them in the boxes, in the packets, but we don't seem to be having much luck at the end of the boxes. Most of it seems to be coming from the middle. Just something I've noticed in the few that we've opened. And knowing my luck, the 2 numbered hits will find one on top, one in bottom in this box. Just to throw my theory out the window. Game Breakers, Billy Smith for the Roosters. Luminous Bailey Simpson for the Eels. League heads, Jason Saab for Manly. Luminous Jesse Southwell for the Knights. Game breakers, James Fisher-Harris for the Warriors. Luminous Luciano Leilua for the Dragons. Die cut, Lachlan Elias for the Dragons. Luminous Katoni Staggs for the Broncos. League heads, Cody Nikarima for the Dolphins. Luminous Isaiah Papali'i for Panthers. Gladiators, Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. Number 183. Luminous Jonah Pezzett for the Storm. Red Triumph, King Gutho for the Dragons. Luminous Mitch Kenny for the Panthers. League heads, Chance Nicole Clockstad for the Warriors. Matthew Tomoko, Luminous for the Raiders. Game breakers, Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. Luminous Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. League heads, Terrell May for the Tigers. Luminous Connolly Alumilu for the Dolphins. Game breakers, Olivia Higgins for the Knights. Luminous Sarah Toga Tuki for the Tigers. Mercury, Brian To'o for Panthers, number 383. Luminous, Ruben Garrick for Manly. Game breakers, Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. Luminous, Jacob Carraz for Bulldogs. Bang, Nico Hines for the Sharks. Luminous, Alex Seafarth for the Tigers. League heads, Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Josh Kerr for the Dragons. League heads, Alifiana Khan Piera for Titans. A luminous Keon Colomatini for the Rabbitohs. Triumph Kulikefu for the Dolphins. Luminous Ali for the Warriors. Bang Dream Buller for the Tigers. Luminous Brian Kelly for the Titans. The league heads, Will Penasini for the Eels. Luminous Jordan Ricky for the Broncos. No sticks are chewy in them anymore. Mind you, we did have a sealed box of 91. Game Breakers, Cameron Munster for Storm. Luminous Jessica Surgis for the Roosters. Die cut Jerome Luai for the Tigers. Mitchell Moses in the Luminous for Eels. League heads, Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. Luminous Harry Grant for Storm. Bang Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Renato Molitalo for the Sharks. Bang Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. Luminous Georgia Hale for the Titans. Game Breakers, Payne Haas for Broncos. Luminous Jacob Saifiti for Knights. League heads, Lindsay Smith for Panthers. Luminous Zach Labert for Cowboys. Bang Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Hi Jared, I like the look of the new select code. Are you doing break 412 tomorrow? Today doing that break for a trade to do later on when you get the time. No, unfortunately we don't have any intentions on doing breaks over the weekend. Unfortunately, a personal thing I have on this weekend, so I can't do any.
Yeah, we might have to do Sunday, Jared.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I may be able to find some time. If I can, we will book it in and get it done. Loco Pacific Tonga for the Dragons. But yes, I'll mark the trade off. Not a problem once I have finished this break. Die cut Ali for the Warriors. Luminous Luke Brooks for Manly. League heads, Renato Mulatalo for Sharks. Luminous Isaiah Katoa for the Dolphins. Game breakers, Emily Bass for the Tigers. Luminous Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Oh, there you go. Well, I can definitely tell you that it will be done this weekend for you at some point. That may be Monday for everyone else, but for you, it may still be the weekend. Jerome Hughes, die cut for Storm. Luminous Samuel Stonestreet for the Sharks. Game breakers, Herbie Farmworth for the Dolphins. Luminous Tanila Paseka for Manly. League heads, Cameron Munster for Storm. Luminous Sam Walker for the Roosters. Bang, Ezra Mam for the Broncos. Luminous John Bateman for the Cowboys. League heads, Jacob Saifisi for the Knights. Luminous Jamin Salmon for the Bulldogs. Last packet for the box. Die cut, Jack Williams for the Eels. And Luminous Cam Munster for Storm. Alright, that was box number 9, guys. That means we are now 3/4 of the way through this one. Only 3 boxes to go. Game breakers, Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. Luminous Samaima Torfa for the Raiders. I'm getting a bit jealous, guys. I still haven't opened a Golden Treasures yet, and I've seen one out in a post on Facebook, so I'm ready to hit one. Bang, Xavier Coates for Storm. Luminous Tamir Martin for the Warriors. Die cut, Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Luminous Mawaki Fodawaka for Titans. League heads, Murata Nakor for the Warriors. Jai Gray, Luminous for the Rabbitohs. Gladiators, Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. number 80. Luminous Reed Marnie for the Cowboys. Game Breakers Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Damien Cook for the Dragons. League Heads Fanua Pole for the Tigers. Luminous Adam Dewey for the Tigers. Game Breakers Dylan Egan for the Dragons. Luminous Ali Brigginshaw for the Broncos. Game Breakers Jaden Campbell for the Titans. Luminous Dominic Young for the Knights. Bang Damien Cook for the Dragons. Luminous Hamoli Olaka'atu for Manly. Game Breakers Blaze Talagi for Panthers. Luminous Kurt Mann for Bulldogs. Oh, there's our instant win. Luminous Greg Marsu for the Knights. Bang Marky Mark for the Roosters. And Teddy in the Luminous for Roosters. Game Breakers Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Max Plath for Dolphins. League Heads Jake Trbojevic for Manly. Cameron Murray in the Luminous for Rabbitohs. Die cut Keon Colin for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Regan Campbell Gillard for the Titans. League Heads Brian Tyler for Panthers. Luminous Jackson Purdue for Cowboys. League Heads Brighton Nakora for the Sharks. Robert Toyer Luminous for the Roosters. League Heads Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. Game Breakers Samima Torfa for the Raiders. Luminous Chans Nico Klokstad for the Warriors. Bang Tommy Dearden for the Cowboys. Luminous Ethan Sanders for the Raiders. Triumph Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Luminous Jermaine Isako for the Dolphins. League Heads Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. Luminous William Kennedy for the Sharks. Game Breakers Bailey Simonson for the Eels. Luminous Satili Tupou for the Bulldogs. Die cut Billy Smith for the Roosters. Luminous Sean Russell for the Eels. Bang Bradman Best for the Knights. Luminous Blaze Talagi for Panthers. League Heads Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. Tom Starling Luminous for the Raiders. Mercury Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Number 315. Luminous Jerome Hughes for the Storm. How many got left? 8 left in the box. Die cut Casey McLean for Panthers. Luminous Tamika Upton for the Broncos. Game Breakers William Kennedy for the Sharks. Luminous Jesse Ramian for the Sharks. Red Triumph in the team for Rabbitohs. Luminous Mitchell Barnett for the Warriors. League Heads KO Weeks for the Raiders. Luminous Casey McLean for the Panthers. League heads, James Tedesco for the Roosters. Luminous Ben Trebojevic for Manly. Bang, AJ Brimson for the Titans. Luminous Sanua Taruva for Tigers. The league heads, Gahabat Shabarsky for the Broncos. Luminous Will Penasini for the Eels. And last pack for the box. League heads, Keanu Kinney for the Titans. Luminous Azali Hopkins for Dragons. Alright, we have 2 boxes left. So, without further ado, let's keep going. Die cut Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Game Breakers Tiana Penatani for the Sharks. Luminous Lindsay Smith for Panthers. League heads Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. Luminous Dylan Walker for the Eels. Bang Zach Lomax for the Eels. Luminous Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. Game Breakers Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Luminous Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. League heads Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Luminous Dane Gagai for the Knights. Game Breakers Apisai Coruscant for the Tigers. Luminous Connor Watson for the Roosters. League heads Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. The Luminous Sam Berrells for the Titans. Bang Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Luminous Moses Sulai for the Dragons. This is our 9th last. Yep. That 9th in the pack, sorry. Not 9th last, my bad. Bang, Ruben Garrick for Manly. I knew what I was doing. I was counting. Tegan, Berry, Luminous for the Dragons. In my head, we were going to hit a numbered card in that packet. It was smack bang in the middle. That was my thought for a moment there. Bang, Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. Luminous, Lukey Lalila for the Tigers. And die cut, Colony Lumi Lou for the Dolphins. Zahara Tamara for the Raiders in the Luminance. League heads, Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Luminance, Murray Talagi for the Cowboys. Game breakers, Hugo for the Roosters. Luminance, Brian Top for Panthers. Die cut, Carl Lawton for the Cowboys. Luminance, Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. League heads, Damien Cook for the Dragons. Luminance, Xavier Willison for the Broncos. League heads, Nelson Safa Solomona for the Storm. Luminance, Alex Twile for the Tigers. Triumph for the Eels. Luminance, Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. Game breakers, KO Weeks for the Raiders. Luminous, Blake Brayley for the Sharks. Mercury, Jesse Colquhoun for the Sharks, number 103. We have Tui Kamikamika for the Storm. Die cut, Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Jack Bostock for Dolphins. League heads, Luke Brooks for Manly. Jake Trbojevic, Luminous for Manly. Triumph, Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. Luminous, Tommy Turbo for Manly. League heads, Blake Brayley for the Sharks. Luminous, Kira Dibb for the Cowboys. die-cut Teddy for the Roosters. Mich, luminous for the Rabbitohs. Game breakers, Bradman Best for the Knights. Luminous Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Predictor. League heads, Herbie Farnworth for the Dolphins. Luminous Roger Tuivasa Sheck for the Warriors. League heads, Mitchell Barnett for the Warriors. Luminous Nafutu White for the Roosters. Game breakers, Loku Pacific Tonga for the Dragons. Tyron Wishart, luminous for Storm. Bang, Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Luminous Tiana Penatani Gray for the Sharks. Gladiators, Apasai Coruscant for the Tigers. Number 471. Terrell May, luminous for the Tigers. Game breakers, Lehel Pawate for Manly. Luminous Sean Kepi for the Rabbitohs. 4 packets left for box number 11. League heads, Dry Arrow for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Jack Williams for the Eels. Game breakers, Tommy Dearden for the Cowboys. Luminous Stefano Utokumanu for Storm. Bang, Herbie Farnworth for the Dolphins. Luminous KO Weeks for the Raiders. Alright, last packet for the box. League heads, Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. And luminous Bo Fermor for Titans. Alright, that was box 11, guys. Let's get this tidied up and we will get stuck into the lucky last box number 12. Please remember, if you're in the breaks, especially one of the upcoming ones, please join the Facebook group so you can trade teams prior to going live. Alright, lucky last box of the case. Let's get it done. Mercury. Well, there we go. See, that just throws my theory out. First packet in the or on the bottom of the box, we hit the numbered card. Tom Starling, number 234 in the Mercury. Luminous Tiana Penatani grey for the Sharks. And I'm not going to lie, I do like when there's hard to pick a pattern if there is one. It's a bit sucky when you start picking easy patterns. Game breakers, Isabel Kelly for the Roosters. Luminous Terrell May for the Tigers. Not sure if everyone's noticed, there's actually no numbers on the cases and that this year. So there's no patterns that we can work out with them. League heads, Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. Luminous Jack Williams for the Eels. Bang Josh Papali'i for the Eels. Luminous Stefano Yusukamanu for Storm.
Till I catch up. Yeah, no, that's really good. Yeah, mate, that's good.
Game breakers, Kale Iro for the Sharks. Luminous KO Weeks for Raiders. League heads, Val Holmes for the Dragons. Luminous Bo Thermal for Titans. Die cut Val Holmes for the Dragons. Luminous Lachlan Ilias for the Dragons. League heads Greg Marsu for the Knights. Luminous Billy Smith for the Roosters.
So we have got one up at the moment. We've got it
Game breakers Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Luminous Max King for the Bulldogs. Bang Sanua Taruva for Tigers. Layshawn Albert Jones for the Warriors. Game breakers Tegan Dimmick for the Bulldogs. Luminous Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Die cut Luke Lawlilly for the Tigers. Luminous Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. Bang Xavier Coates for Storm. Luminous Alex Twile for the Tigers. League heads of Alami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Luminous Tyron Wisher for Storm. Bang Jesse Ramian for the Sharks. Luminous Junior Paulo for the Eels. League heads, UptheWahs for Manly. Luminous, Follas Kafusi for Dolphins. Game breakers, AJ Brisbane for Titans. Luminous, Kira Dib for Cowboys. Game breakers, Dominic Young for the Knights. Luminous, Ethan Strange for the Raiders. League heads, Marky Mark for the Roosters. Jaden Campbell, Luminous for the Titans. Die cut, Bo Thermal for Titans. Luminous Taylor Preston for the Bulldogs. League heads, Apasai Coruscant for the Tigers. Luminous Ethan Bullymore for Manly.
Give me a number and we'll be able to pick up. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
Gladiators, Jared Rera James Fisher Harris. Thought that was Hargraves for a moment. In Warriors, number 481. Braden Trindle, Luminous for the Sharks. Game breakers, John Bateman for the Cowboys. Luminous, Jesse Colquhoun for the Sharks. Bang, Damien Cook for the Dragons. Luminous, Kurt Capewell for the Warriors. League heads, Tom Starling for the Raiders. Luminous, Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. And predictor, Luminous, Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. League heads, Isaiah Katoa for the Dolphins. Luminous, Sam Verrills for the Titans. League heads, William Kennedy for the Sharks. Luminous, Dream Buller for the Tigers. Triumph, Chance Nicole Klokstad for the Warriors. Luminous, Xavier Coates for the Storm. League heads, Josh Papali'i for Eels. Reece Walsh, Luminous for Broncos. Red Triumph, Reece Walsh for Broncos. I'm not going to lie, especially for a Broncos card, that looks pretty cool. I like that one. Luminous Koala for Manly. Die cut Marky Mark for Roosters. Luminous Bradman Best for the Knights. 4 packets to go. Game Breakers Jack Bostock for the Dolphins. Luminous Dylan Edwards for the Panthers. Still reckon that one looks like a cone hit. League Heads Keon Colomatangi for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Payne Haas for the Broncos. Game Breakers Hudson Young for the Raiders. Luminous Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. And lucky last for the case. Bang Tamale for the Raiders. And Phoenix Crossland Luminous for the Knights to finish us off. Let me, we'll just push these to the side for now. We don't need to go through them. All right, here we go. We have 6 of our top hits out of the case still hidden underneath these base cards. So let's go. Starting off with 229, Clive Churchill Predictor Signature for the Sharks. I don't have my team list up. Where's my team list? There it is. Sharks. Scott Sager. There we go. He was trying to hit the Titans, but you've got to be happy with that. All right. Dally M Predictor number 136. Isaiah Yo for Panthers. Who's that? Dean Mich with the Panthers. All right, next up. Oh, numbers on the front, so I can't even check the number. Number 62 in the Dragons. Triumph for the team. Number up in the corner. I'm not sure how well that'll show through the camera, but a nice card overall. Have it put it in the right slot. All right, next up, what do we got? Oh, the instant win. Even better, I know this person has their team because it's in their name. It's pretty hard not to know. Kevin Follas with the Warriors. Congratulations, mate. It was hard not to tell you when you were in the chat when we hit it, but we waited. All right. Premiership Predictor in the NRL number 214 for Manly. Lauren Plath with Manly. Oh, numbers up in that top corner again. All right, lucky last. What do we got? Dally M Predictor Wild Card number 173 for the Storm. There we go, Tom Mill. Congratulations. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Thanks for joining us. Hope you all had a ball. And that's the bells ringing to say we're all done. Not quite. It was just good timing, as you can hear. All right, guys. Until next time, you may see us again over the weekend. But at this point, I will lock in Monday for sure, 10 a.m. So we will be breaking at that point one way or another. It just matters which one. All right, guys. Until then.